composition of trig functions with variables. All right. So these problems, they have some nasty looking answers sometimes, but they're really not bad. I would say they're even easier than the problems we've done before. So first example, rewrite tan of arc sine of 3u as an algebraic expression in u. And it should also say assume u is positive. This will make our life easier later. We're going to start this the way we always have. So tan, I'm going to write this as sine inverse of 3u. The super important thing that I have mentioned several times, when you have inverse trig is on the inside, set inverse trig equal to theta. Rewrite as regular trig. Okay, so sine of 3u, sine inverse of 3u is equal to theta. An equivalent statement is that sine of theta is equal to 3u. We've simplified this statement. So instead of tangent of theta equals sine inverse of 3u, we said sine inverse of 3u is theta. So what we're really looking for is tangent of theta. So we want tangent of theta. Sine of theta is 3u. When we've done these problems before, they've all boiled down to a want, a ratio, and then a quadrant. So what quadrant is this going to be in? Well, if u is positive, then that means 3u is positive. And in this case, sine of theta is equal to 3u, so that means that sine is positive. Sine inverse has a range between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So we're not in quadrants 2 or 3 because those aren't part of sine inverse's range. I'll make this sine inverse range. That's what we're looking at here. And we're saying that sine is positive, so it can't be in quadrant 4 because all students take calculus. Sine is negative in quadrant 4, so we are in quadrant 1. And that's what always happens with these variable problems. You'll end up in quadrant 1, which is the nice thing. So we're in quadrant 1, sine of theta is equal to 3u, and we want tangent of theta. That's what we have. So sine of theta, I'm going to write this as 3u over 1. We're going to remember our ka, toa. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. We are looking for tangent of theta, which will be positive because we are in quadrant 1. Opposite is 3u. The hypotenuse is 1. This side down here, I want to talk quickly about the math. Move you right there. So the math here, this will be the square root of 1 squared minus 3u squared. And I see a mistake happening a lot on these types of problems where the u gets squared, but the 3 doesn't. So I want to make a note here that the square gets distributed to both the 3 and the u. So this is square root of 1 minus 9u squared. All right. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. This is our opposite. This is our adjacent. I'm going to erase the positive sign. We know it's positive because there's no negative on it. 3u is tangent of theta is equal to 3u over square root of 1 minus 9u squared. And that's the final answer. That's it. So not so bad. Let's go ahead and try it one more time here. Rewrite cosecant of cosine inverse of w over 9, the square root of 9 plus w squared as an algebraic expression in w. Assume w is positive. Same trick as last time. Set inverse trig equal to theta. So you have cosine inverse of w over the square root of 9 plus w squared is equal to theta. Furthermore, well, maybe let's see. It's fine. Furthermore, what we're looking for now is cosecant of theta because cosine inverse of blah is theta. So I'm just replacing it. That's what I want at the end of the day. What I want is cosecant of theta. I could even take time right now. This is so toa and say, okay, I know cosecant and sine are soulmates. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which means that cosecant will be hypotenuse over opposite. I can just kind of like make that note to myself now, and then I have it for later. All right. I need two more pieces of information here. The next piece of information, we rewrite the inverse trig as regular trig. Cosine of theta is equal to w over the square root of 9 plus w squared. Because w is positive, if we look at this fraction here, the numerator will be positive, and then square roots can only spit out positive numbers, so the denominator will be positive. So you have a positive over a positive, and that means that cosine is positive. And that's because w is positive. Cosine inverse is where the angle comes from. So cosine inverse has a range from 0 to pi. That means that the angle that was spit out, theta, it can't be in quadrants 3 or 4. All students take calculus. So it's either in quadrant 1 or 2, but because this whole thing is positive, it has to be in quadrant 1. And make a note that this is the range of cosine inverse that I've highlighted there. The pink is the cosine inverse range. So we are looking for cosecant of theta. We know that cosine of theta is w over the square root of 9 plus w squared, and we know we're in quadrant 1. So cosecant of theta is going to be hypotenuse over opposite, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent, hypotenuse. We can set up a triangle. A lot of trig is setting up a triangle. The adjacent side is w. The hypotenuse is the square root of 9 plus w squared. The math on the remaining side can be just a teeny bit tricky here. So this is going to be the square root of the hypotenuse squared. So this is the square root of 9 plus w squared. This whole thing squared minus w squared, and it's the square root of that. It's messy, but It's okay. What happens is this square right here and this square root, those are inverses of one another, so they cancel each other out. And this is equal to the square root of all you're left with is 9 plus w squared, and then the minus w squared from right here. Those w squareds cancel. It's square root of 9, which is just 3. Right? And you can kind of determine that by looking at this guy here, right? We know that this should be the square root of opposite squared plus adjacent squared. And we already had the w squared, so of course this had to be the opposite squared. So 3 makes sense there. We're looking for cosecant of theta, which we have already said is hypotenuse over opposite. So that'll be square root of 9 plus w squared over the opposite side is 3. And that is our final answer. Square root of 9 plus w squared divided by 3. So it's not so bad. It's just, it's a bit of setup and that's it. All right, so that's it for this video. And in the next video, we'll talk about cancellation rules, and that'll be it for 2.1. I'll see you then. Bye.